we can't record the videos, but
Right.
I do want to record the discussion for this presentation
Sure.
by H. Tom on topsoil.
Okay. All right.
I have one comment on the video we just saw. Um, it showed a lot of earthworms, a couple times in that, as examples of good topsoil. Not all topsoil is the same. Topsoil
No.
for farmland is totally different from that in arboreal forest, for example.
Yeah.
In fact, earthworms, which are not native to arboreal forest, destroy it. When fishermen throw their extra earthworms after fishing into the forest, those earthworms proliferate. They eat the duff on the ground in the forest and destroy its topsoil, which reduces our forest. So it's not every thing is good in every place. Topsoils are different.
Yeah. My grandparents taught me to dump my leftover worms in the lake. I'm not sure that's better or worse, but
Yeah, at least there the fish can eat them.
When I was a kid, we ate them. When I was a young kid, we ate the leftover worms.
I knew people who did that. I was never able to get one down.
Well,
I
was
didn't really eat, but as a young kid, it was before gummy worms were invented. I sort of enjoyed having a worm in my mouth and then spit it out. Yeah.
That's how you kept them warm, anyway.
Yeah.
All right,
The
no more comments.
Okay, we got. Want to
I
go?
would like to continue with this one because it's really
Okay.
it's
All
really good.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Let's see.
The life of
Froze again. Okay, Dean, why don't you
jumping
go
to
ahead?
vacuum.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess I'll lower my hand. I will when I get done. I have more questions to throw to the gallery than, but what, and the guy, the good old boy with the beard did sort of answer one question as he is spreading the knowledge that he has gained, and that's a good thing. But so two questions I'll just throw out. What is the percentage of these born again dirt farmers and dirt ranchers as compared to the whole economy of that? And then also, how does this interact with big corporate America, as in Monsanto and DuPont, et cetera, et cetera? And then another thing I just had to laugh at, I mean, the agritourism, that's cool. What the heck is that? When I was a kid in Minnesota, I didn't know you could go to a store and buy a gall darn a pumpkin or a Christmas tree. You went to the pumpkin patch to get your pumpkin. You went to the tree farm and sawed your own tree down, or even went legally to the forest and harvested. Yeah, and then topsoil, paper thin 6 inches. Of course, in California here, that feeds the produce for 40% of the entire nation. We don't have any topsoil. I don't know how they do it. But when I was growing up in Minnesota, we 6 inches, we had 18 to 2 to 4 feet of topsoil. And I saw it got dug up as my dad moved trees into the property. Anyway, I'll shut up.
No, this is people for centuries thought of topsoil as a self-renewing product. And It
You're
turns
frozen,
out it's
Tom.
the almost that it's the
What?
almost
Waiting with bated breath. Yeah.
that's killing it. Do now. It says I'm sending audio out. Oh, God,
No, you're not.
computers.
Yeah.
It just keeps
cut-
freezing up on you, Tom.
Oh well. Discuss among yourselves for a while. I'll keep talking and maybe you'll.
Hey, well, I do have a question for you, Tom, and a comment. One is, so what do you
Hear me.
see as what do you see as the future of food production, and how it relates to the overall ecology? Because, I mean, what they're doing in the Amazonian rainforest is they keep clearing out the rainforest to create cropland, which is not a good thing in my estimation. So, what do you see as the overall future for agriculture and its relationship to the rest of the ecology?
Good question, because you have two competing forces here. You have these dirt farmers, resurgence there. Then on the other hand, you have all that autonomous farming thing that we saw in the first video. Those two those first two videos are in direct conflict with each other.
And the third is going to confuse the issue.
I have a short comment. I found the most fascinating thing there was that guy talking about how he measures the health of the soil by clumping, by ribosomes, by this and that. But when he sends it out to get it tested, most places just report pH, phosphorus, nitrogen, stuff like that you can add to the soil. But this guy is testing the real health of the soil, which is way different than the phosphorus nitrogen
Yeah.
content. I found that section really fascinating.
Yeah. It's
Okay,
I will defer to Carol. Thank you.
okay. Go ahead, Carol.
Well, what little I remember of ancient history tells us that human civilization, the use of agriculture, started around big rivers that flooded a lot. The Tigris, the Euphrates, and the Nile. And these rivers flooding out into the landscape deposited the topsoil from one place into another place. And okay, the Mississippi was doing this at one time. And it seems to me that the trick is to get all of the removed topsoil deposited on land before the river hits the Gulf of Mexico or the Mediterranean. You know, for that agriculture to be sustainable, the river has to flood regularly. And what we have done, certainly with the Mississippi, is try to control this flooding. You know, we put up levees, we put up giant walls and things. And the trick is to capture the topsoil by flooding before it hits the sea.
Yeah. The problem is that topsoil already in the river is mostly dead. It's not the living creature that oxygenated soil is. Because the
Well-
creatures in the topsoil drowned in the water. You flood irrigation works in a way, but it is not the best way to irrigate. Absolutely not.
And I'm not suggesting it's the best way to irrigate, except alongside a big river.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean,
Back then, it worked back then and we got away with it, but we can't keep doing that. Modern systems can quadruple rice production over flooding.
quadruple what production?
Rice
Rice,
Rice, okay.
requires a lot of water.
but the water can be applied in ways other than flooding that aren't as damaging to the soil underneath the rice plants.
Do we plan on doing another video here?
I would like to do the
Yeah.
third one. We should
I
have
have a
time
quick-
for it.
I have a quick question. I
Yes.
wanted to mention the Army Corps of Engineers kind of changing the rivers in order
Yeah.
to for movement, commerce, and trade, but not necessarily for the health of the farming.
No,
But
that was
but my
never a consideration.
right. My question for you, Tom, is could you just do a 1 or 2 sentence summary of the first 2 videos you saw, because we saw, because you said they're kind of opposed to each other, and then this third one will be a little different yet. So could
Yeah.
you just tell me what you meant by that?
The first one was high tech. Fixing
Yeah.
soil using high tech. The second one is fixing soil by good management, which used
Crop rotation.
high tech, but it didn't depend on it, really. It is unfortunately a slower paced method of improving long run of the farm. It will produce better results long term. It's not as dependent on the mechanical delivery of nutrients.
Okay, then quickly, what are we going to see in this third video?
Oh, well, we for years with vertical. We're going to do vertical farming. Yeah.
Okay.
Oops.
I love vertical. I don't do as well with vertical as I did when I was younger.
Yeah, it's an explanation of the advantages and disadvantages and problems of vertical farming. They are not the panacea that they are
Go ahead. I'm just getting ready. Sorry.
frequently sold as. Not, I think vertical farming
You're frozen again.
is going to work great on a trip to the moon.
Okay, do you have something quick, Carol, before we start the next video then?
Yeah, something quick. it's also suiting your grazing animals to the environment. You know, that whole sheep versus cattle thing in the American West. They hated the sheep because the sheep were evolved for a very wet environment, you know, like England.
We're gonna go pretty soon, Walter. We'll go pretty soon, okay?
Yeah, and
Pretty soon. Walter.
in a dry environment, the sheep would dig up all the plants and eat the roots, whereas the cattle only ate down to the ground level. So it's very much suiting your grazing critters to the moisture level.
Yeah, I've heard that raising lamb is actually worse ecologically than raising cattle.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, if you do it in a wet environment, sheep are great. You just can't do it in a semi-arid environment.
What is a wet environment? I don't live
Yeah.
in one.
England. At one time, England's practically entire economy was based on grazing sheep and exporting wool.
And I don't know which I love more, goats or cattle. When I was a kid and we'd drive out in the country, I would make my brother and I would make my dad pull over so we could go interact with the cows and all that. But anyway.
And unfortunately, goats are only good in wet environment grazers like sheep.
Oh no! In San Diego,
Can we
there are
start
people
the next
making a good
video?
living clearing freeway things with goats.
Okay, let's take a look at this.
Carol,
Okay, that high educated labor cost is obviously susceptible to AI type automation. In other words, that is
Mhm.
an eliminatable cost. More technology. I just want to mention that.
okay, Dean.
Yeah, so all this beautiful, and I've eaten it all, and it's delicious, and it's yuppie scum food. That's my favorite phrase. As in, it costs 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much as quote real food. The other thing is that lettuce, I mean, iceberg lettuce is basically mushrooms, no nutritional value whatsoever, a little bit of water. Some of the other lettuces which I eat have some nutrients, but there ain't no protein in there. It does not sustain life.
I wanted to make a point that it seems like labor costs is the main difference between vertical farming and traditional farming. Okay, I think we may be seeing that difference drop because farming costs are going to go up because we're kicking out all the laborers. So labor costs are going to go up, and the price of land grown food is going to go up. And if vertical farming labor costs remain the same, there won't be as much difference between the labor costs. So cost of a head of lettuce grown on a vertical farm may be comparable to one grown on a traditional farm. Because of that, I think we're gonna end up paying a lot more for people to pick our lettuce because we won't have as many people doing it.
And living in California, yeah, I have lived that for 55 years, as in paying people nothing so that we can get cheap food.
Yeah, I think, you know, at the extreme, this is the only way to grow food on Mars, for example. It would be the only kind of way. But it is one of the basic problems is growing protein that way is really difficult and very energy intensive. So imagine having a carload of soybeans in vertical racks. You could do it, but it's really expensive. And I noticed Musk Brothers company, Square something. It died a couple of years ago because he wasn't that vertical farming company that he came up with in boxcars. I think that they just didn't make it. They couldn't make anything, so they had to quit.
Harold, do you have another comment?
Yeah. Kicking out the laborers because they are either illegal or foreign is not just going to mess up the cost of picking crops. Most of the dairy industry in New England depends on immigrant labor. Most of the dairy industry in Wisconsin depends on immigrant labor. So it's not just picking things in the field where we are throwing out the people who do it. It's worse than that.
Dean?
Yeah, but that's, Carol, because we want everything free. We want $2,000 TVs for $400. And so we want all our food to be free. And I listen to old time radio. And what we pay for food is about 30–40% of what we used to pay for food. So if you're willing to pay teenagers whatever to go out and pick tomatoes, pick lettuce and all that, like we did in the old days. Also in California, we used to have a program called the Bracero program. Google it. And that was where we invited seasonal workers into the country. And if we treated them in 2025 standards, right, they would love it. They would come up here, they would be seasonal workers, they would take that money and they would go home to their families in Mexico and Guatemala, and it's a total win-win. But that was considered not politically correct, racist, you name it. But if you go back to that era, and I lived in that era in California, the Bracero program was done humanely and correctly with restrooms and et cetera, was not a bad program. They were called guest workers, and you are more than welcome to come up here. And then maybe eventually you might work your way into green card status, et cetera. But yeah, anyway, I'll shut up.
Well, no more hands up. So do you have anything more, Tom?
There used to be flocks of combines that would start in the south and they would harvest all the way north and die in northern Canada and be turned into parts and melted down. Literally, combines migrated north for a season, and then they were recycled.
Yep.
And the workers went back to Mexico or wherever they came from. The things were melted down, shipped back, and made into combines again. The world keeps changing. And
surprise, surprise.
I don't know that we can save the Great Plains. I'm inclined to think not. But we can probably do much better with what we have left. We're going to have to do much better if we're going to keep our population. Dean, I think, had his hand up next.
Yeah, we're on overtime, but yeah. H-Tom, real quick. I sent you, I posted on
Yeah,
the
I got it. I got notes written
okay,
down. I'll,
and on your own time, do that. And
yep. Thank you.
you have my email,
No.
dean@petty.com. And yeah, anyway, I got a call, my cousin Stanley, he's driving his Mini down to Des Moines, so.
Yeah. I have to get ready for the
Fantastic,
funeral.
thought-provoking program. Thank you.
Absolutely more than I expected, H-Tom.
Yeah,
Thank you both.
it was good. Next week, I'm not sure who's supposed to be presenting. It could be Jason, but there's nothing posted yet on the meetup site.
We haven't seen Jason in a couple of weeks.
No.
I thought he was here last week.
Yeah, maybe he's off with his Argonauts doing whatever he does.
Well, yeah, when he was presenting a couple of weeks ago, apparently David, who was running the session, accidentally cut it off toward the end. I don't know if that
And ticked him off. Okay, so
might have. I don't know.
might have. Who knows? Who? That's on him.
Okay, so
Oh.
I think both, at least David will be back next week. Go ahead, will you have something, Dean?
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I think I successfully joined up on Minnesota Futurists, yada, yada, yada. We'll see. But I have a URL included with my hover, blah, blah, blah. And I can't get deanpetty.com because some realtor in Billings, Montana owns it, but doesn't use it. And I've filed appeals and everything. Hey, man, if you register, you don't use it. Anyway, I don't want to go through that fight. So I might, because meetup.com is an infomercial, like all this free nonsense. Oh, do you want to donate? Yeah, let me donate. Oh, well, it turned out I was donating $50 a month to the ASPCA, and I give money to the ASPCA, but not through meetup.com. So I might, and you guys can think about it, maybe make an alternate site, free, hosted, blah, 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 where you could post crap or junk. Sorry, Carol. Whatever you wanted to do. But anyway, that's down the line. I got too many irons in the fire. It's been a great meeting. I'm going to fill Stan in on what he missed.
Yep, okay. Thanks, everybody. I guess we'll see you.
Carol?
Oh,
Yeah, I just had one more comment to make. I have suggested this in the past and nobody thought much of it, but you complain about the people in you complain about governments ruining the rainforest in order to plant crops. And this is something that we could do something about by the developed world paying the governments of, places like the Amazon to sustain that. In other words, you want to develop and your development consists of cutting out rainforests. We'll help you develop with tax money that we're giving you, but we're paying you to sustain the rainforests.
And yeah, and there are organizations that try to incentivize Brazil, et cetera, to do the right thing. And I have given money to those organizations.
Yeah, but it would take the combined efforts of all the governments that want the damn rainforest to stay there.
Good
To
luck
give
on, good
serious
luck on
money.
combined efforts, but yeah, I
Yeah.
100%.
It's been proposed in the COP conferences, but the rich nations really haven't stepped up. So
Yeah.
I doubt that it'll happen.
And especially us, the richest nation, currently.
Well, it's a way of using the capitalist system
Yeah.
to get what you want rather than,
Right. Capitalism
Well,
used effectively is fantastic.
The only way it's really going to happen is if we go down there and buy it
Well,
and then put up a fence.
I have actually bought an eighth of a hectare in Brazil, but I don't know if it's doing any good, but I did it. I put my money where my mouth is.
Well,
I don't have that much money, but I got a lot of mouth.
I hope no one's burned it down yet.
And when I was a kid, I studied the whole idea of Brasilia, and oh man, my God, they're going out in the middle of nowhere and they're clearing this so-called capital and all that. I go, well, that sounds kind of cool. Brazil is going to be the next U.S. Yeah. Well, good luck on that.
It was a plan.
Yeah. Thanks,
A man
everybody.
of plan Panama. Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you, ladies
Thank you, H. Tom. Great.
great program.
and gentlemen.